Good morning, students. This lesson is of class 8 for the subject of History and Civics, Chapter 10, India's Freedom Struggle, the second phase, starting on page number 107 of your textbook, titled Past and Present 8, and is being submitted to you on 12th January 2021. This voice is of Millie Bhatnagar. In the previous chapter, we had studied about the formation of Indian National Congress, partition of Bengal, and the beginning of the revolutionary movement. In this chapter, we will study about the national movement in India after 1914. This was the time when World War I began and Indians started an agitation for self-rule. In this context, we will study about the Home Rule movement. Students, this is an image of the founders of the Home Rule movement in India. It was Annie Besant and Bal Gangadhar Tilak who started the Home Rule movement in India. The main objective of the Home Rule movement was to attain self-government within the British Empire by constitutional means. The leaders of the movement traveled extensively, criticized the government for neglecting industries in India, education, and its revenue policy. The British came up with the repressive measures and some appeasement policy. So the movement did not prove very successful. Towards the end of 1917, Tilak went to England and was away for many months. Annie Besant could not give a firm lead in the absence of Tilak's support, so the movement gradually declined. Students, this is an image of the Lucknow session of Congress of 1916. The annual session of the Congress was held in Lucknow in 1916 and was presided over by A.C. Majumdar. This session is important because of two main developments. We had studied in the previous chapter about the Surat split of 1907. It was now in 1916 session that the early nationalist and the assertive nationalist reunited and decided to work together. Efforts were being made to bring the Congress and the Muslim League. When the session of the Muslim League was held in 1915 in Bombay, it was attended by some Congress leaders. When the Congress session was held in 1916, the Lucknow Pact was signed between the Congress and the Muslim League. It symbolized Hindu-Muslim unity as both the communities came together to fight for self-rule. Let us take a short break. You are requested to kindly pause this recording for 3 to 4 minutes and write the answers for the following questions in your notebooks after listening to them carefully. Question number 1. Who started the Home Rule movement? Question number 2. Who presided over the Lucknow session of the Congress? Question number 3. After how many years did the early nationalist and the assertive nationalist reunite? We will now discuss the answers. Answer number 1. Annie Besant and Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Answer number 2. A.C. Majumdar. Answer number 3. 9 years. Let us resume our lecture now and study about Mahatma Gandhi, who returned back to India from South Africa in 1915. Before we study about his contribution in the Indian national movement, let us briefly discuss here about the early life of Mahatma Gandhi, who was born in 1869 at Porbandar in the Kathiawar district of Gujarat. Let us look at some of the images of Mahatma Gandhi. This is an image of Mahatma Gandhi in South Africa, where he practiced law. This is an image of Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore. This image of his later years. Let us continue with the chapter. In 1888, Mahatma Gandhi went to England to study law. On completing his studies, he came back to India and started practicing law at Rajkot. From 1893 to 1914, he practiced law in South Africa. Gandhiji soon became the leader of the struggle for justice in South Africa. During 1893 to 1914, he was engaged in struggle against the racist authorities in South Africa. He evolved the technique of satyagraha, which was based on truth and non-violence. Gandhiji returned to India in 1915 and spent the next 4 years in studying the Indian situation. He was involved in 3 struggles. Let us discuss about it here. The first movement was in Champaran. The indigo cultivators of Champaran were greatly exploited by the European planters. They were bound to grow indigo on 3 by 20th of their land and sell it to the Britishers at prices fixed by them. As a result of Gandhiji's protest, the government was forced to increase the price at which the planters brought indigo from the cultivators. In 1918, Gandhiji led the mill workers of Ahmedabad in a strike against the mill owners who had refused to pay them higher wages. When the workers seemed to weaken, he provided support to them by undertaking fast. The mill owners ultimately agreed on a 35% increase in wages. Kheda Satyagraha. Crops failed in Kheda and the peasants were not in a position to pay land revenue. So they refused to pay revenue and ultimately the government was forced to arrive at a settlement with the peasants. These experiments in Satyagraha brought Gandhiji into close contact with the masses, both the peasant in the rural area and the workers in the urban areas. We will now look at some images showing how Mahatma Gandhi involved himself with the masses. This is an image of Bardoli Satyagraha. Vallabhbhai Patel was influenced by the Satyagraha of Mahatma Gandhi. After the end of the First World War, the British came up with Montague-Chelmsford reforms. Now the central legislature was to have two chambers or houses, Imperial Legislative Assembly and the Council of State. The system of dual government or diarchy was introduced in the provinces. It meant that the subjects to be dealt with by the provincial government was divided into two parts. Reserved subjects such as finance, law and order were to be administered by the governor with the help of his council. Transferred subjects such as education, public health were to be administered by the governor with the help of the Council of Ministers. Thus, the real power remained with the British. Let us again take a short break. You are requested to pause your recording for 3 to 4 minutes and answer the following questions in your notebooks. Question number 1. When did Mahatma Gandhi return to India? Question number 2. Name the three initial movements of Gandhiji. Question number 3. Write one feature of Montague-Chelmsford reforms. We will now discuss the answers. Answer number 1, 1915. Answer number 2, Gandhiji led movements in Champaran, Ahmedabad and Kheda. Answer number 3, the central legislature was made bicameral, two houses, Imperial Legislative Assembly and Council of States. This act could not satisfy the Indians. In 1919, only the government passed the Rowlatt Act. The act authorized government to imprison any person without trial and convict him in a court. This act came as a sudden blow to the Indians who were expecting self-government. Gandhiji appealed to the Viceroy to withhold his assent to this measure, but was ignored. Students, these are the images showing how the Indians protested against the British rule and the kind of treatment meted out by the British to the Indians. Students, please read page number 107 to 109 of your textbook and write new words given on page number 119 in your notebook as your home assignment. We will continue with this chapter next week. Thank you.